let her rip.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I'm Deb from Occupational Therapy, and I have Chris here from Physical Therapy coming at you from Froedtert Hospital in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Both Chris and I have been involved with the ALS certified clinic here. Myself, probably 18 going on 19 years, and Chris is right behind me. And for those of you that we do know from the clinic, you know that Chris and I kind of go together as a team as far as therapy goes, but we have other members that also come in and see you as part of a team. And our objective here is to work with the doctors and the other team members to do what's best for you and your family and try to help you while you're there. So those of you that do come know that the appointment's a long one. But today we want to kind of focus on what we look at in clinic. From an occupational therapy standpoint, I look at how things are going at home with the everyday kind of things, bathing, dressing, taking your shower, all those kinds of things, and looking at your strength. Every time you come in, we look at your strength. I look at your arm and hand strength. So, and then Chris, who we come in together, she's looking at how are you getting around? How are you walking? How are you transferring, getting from point A to point B? And how can we make this easier for you? What do we recommend? All those types of things. And sometimes it's hard to go through all that information in one little clinic visit, but hopefully with this presentation, we can give you an overview. And then, like Angie said at the end, if you have questions, we can address specific things. But knowing that, you know, we're here to help you and your families, and that's our main objective. And there are certain things besides, now I'm kind of going off tangent here again, but we look at how to exercise properly, what we recommend as far as stretching and exercising. We look at being safe within your home environment and in the community as far as getting from point A to point B and what works best. We look at equipment that will help you be safe in your home or may help you do your daily activities in a safer, more energy efficient way. So those are the kinds of things we're looking at. And we are so very blessed to be affiliated with the ALS Association here, because they help our objectives as far as supplying equipment through the loan closet, which I'm sure most of you have taken advantage of, and the support groups, such as what we're doing today, and all the community things. So we are very blessed to be affiliated with some exceptional professionals, as well as our doctors, our nurses, and on and on. So to start here today, I think what we'll go along with as far as our outline is first of all, and this is Chris's area, physical therapy, we overlap.
We'll just let Deb talk about it. It's all good.
Well, we can both talk. But anyway, transferring is meaning getting from point A to point B. Now, normally a transfer is standing up, moving over, and sitting down. Now, what gets in the way of that? What makes transferring difficult? Well, we know weakness from the motor neuron disease, which affects balance. And balance sometimes isn't just weakness. It's also how you can get your point of gravity. For example, you may have arm weakness. You may have strong legs, but you may have arm weakness. And if someone would give you a little push, you don't have the arms to balance yourself. So that could be a balance issue. Dizziness can cause balance issues. Being able to turn your head and see where you're going can cause balance issues. There's a variety of things. But why are we concerned with that? Our biggest consideration is we don't want you to fall, because if you fall and you break a bone or you injure something, that immobilizes you even more. And if it's one thing we don't want to do is immobilize a muscle or a joint that can get weak just from that. So we want to avoid falls, and not to mention going to the hospital or being injured and those types of things.
So kind of going off the falls, you know, we'll not only talk about equipment that can help you out, but just the basics of fall prevention, which we have handouts for in the clinic, you know, opening pathways and getting rid of throw rugs or securing throw rugs, adequate lighting, using bathroom equipment, grab bars, and other accessories in the bathroom. And then a big one is if there is the risk for falling, having a way to call somebody if you do fall and you need help. How are you going to call somebody to come over and help you out if you do have a fall? So those are some of the basics with fall prevention.
And that's something we will usually ask about every clinic visit, just because it's a big consideration. And again, you know, anything we can do to prevent that is what we're trying to accomplish. So when do falls occur? Well, even just trying to stand and move from one point to another, getting out of bed, sometimes that's a chore. The biggest, statistically, where falls happen the most, though, are in the bathroom. And why is that? Because it can be slippery. You can be having to negotiate going over a tub, or getting up off a toilet, or maybe even the bathroom's small and you're trying to navigate through there. And if it's one place you don't want to fall, it's the bathroom, because it's a pretty hard floor and you don't have a cushy fall. So we want to try to prevent that. Now, if you would fall, I think I'm getting ahead of myself, but if you would fall, you have to have a strategy. How would I get up? Now, for some people, you couldn't get up on your own. You would have to have assistance. You'd have to have someone around. So if you're completing some of those transfers, like if you're going to take a shower or you're going to be in the bathroom for a while, it's a good idea to have someone home. Or as Chris said, have a way of getting a hold of someone if something should happen. And if you can't verbalize it, they make mechanisms that you can put around your neck or your wrist that has a button to it, or a lot of you use your cell phones, that type of thing. Although when you fall, the cell phone doesn't always fall right next to you. So, so that's a consideration there. But I think what we'll do is we'll kind of talk about the different types of transfers and what might help in each instance. And I know everyone's at different levels, and some of you are transferring on your own just fine. Others of you need assistance from someone, or assistance from a device or a lift or something like that. So I think we'll just talk about the basics to start with.
Typically, when we do this in person, we obviously are doing our little demonstrations with transfers, but because of the Zoom, and we're not going to demonstrate over Zoom for you, we'll kind of talk through it. So,
So first of all, just a stand and pivot transfer, meaning you're standing up from a surface and moving, let's say from let's say out of bed into a chair. Okay. So what factors into doing a standing up from a surface? Well, first of all, the surface itself matters. Typically, if the surface is more firm or higher or has armrests, it's easier to get up from a standing position. So we make recommendations for sometimes stiffer cushions on things. Here, Chris has a picture of raising up a sofa with some furniture blocks, or sometimes people even put like a piece of plywood in between the cushions to make it more firm, things like that. And in the bathroom, a higher toilet seat helps tremendously. Getting out of bed, I'm really skipping around, sorry, Chris.
You're fine.
Getting out of bed, using a bed rail, something like that helps. And sometimes even just a little, everyone has their own little techniques, but we generally recommend a gait belt, which is something that is just placed around your waist that cinches on, and it is more for the person helping you to give them a little leverage. Or if you'd be going up a stair or down a stair, just giving them a little leverage so that you just need a little bit of assist, okay? And like, as I mentioned, the toilet, the things there are the higher toilet seats. Some grab bars within the house could be very beneficial. Even getting up to stand, like up off the toilet to have a grab bar nearby, or the entrance to a house to have a little grab bar nearby, those things all help.
Deb, I want to throw a quick thing in there about
Yes.
suction cup grab bars.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, not a huge fan, just because they can lose their suction, and then that would be a big disaster if you're using your whole body weight. Here we go. There's someone that uses suction. And with tile, if you put it over the grout lines, it doesn't have a good seal. So if you do use a suction grab bar, I would say number one, make sure you're not using your whole body weight on it. Maybe just more as a little gentle guide. And number two, to check the suction regularly to make sure it's secure. I think your best bet is to have it bolted right into the tile. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about home modifications and equipment, but something more secure and something that's put in by someone who knows what they're doing is probably the best.
Even grab bars that are put into the tile, if they're not in a stud in a secure spot, those can pull right out of the wall too. So suction cups and not greatly applied grab bars into the right spots are probably more of a danger than.
Yeah. And we hear too people saying, oh, I use the soap dish.
Oh, yes, soap dish.
Or, and we're like, no, just get a nice solid grab bar and use that to make sure that it can take your body weight. So if you can't do the stand and move from one point to another, what else could you do? Well, they make slide boards, which you kind of scooch underneath your bottom. There's a picture right there. And they also make ones that, what is that called?
That's a Beezy board.
Thank you, Beezy board.
It basically has like a little lazy Susan on a slidey board, and same gist as a slide board, but even a shade easier.
And that then would be, you are assisting by moving your body side to side, and the person helping you is just guiding your trunk so that you're going from point A to point B. Now, the challenge with that is your surfaces have to be fairly even. Of course, going downhill is easier, going uphill is harder. And if you're going onto a commode or a toilet, you got to make sure that, like with a commode, that the arm would go up, because you can't get your butt up and over a big railing. So you have to kind of look at your surfaces. A lot of people use this for, let's say, bed into a wheelchair or something like that. Now, in addition to this, there's another device called a pivot disc. There it is. And there, the person is putting their feet on this pivot disc and it's helping rotate their body. Now, we've heard from many people, they either love it or hate it. So sometimes people don't feel secure if they're kind of squatting or standing and it's moving on them, but it's more of an assist for the person helping you to turn your body. And also these things, just as we'll say all along during this presentation, a lot of these pieces of equipment are available through our ALS loan closet. And these loan closets, we have one located here in Oak Creek, but then as you gals know, as Mary and the rest of you gals know, we have them in other places in the state as well. What is it? Appleton, where else, Mary?
Eau Claire.
Oh,
Claire.
okay. Eau Claire. Yeah, thanks, Kathleen.
Yeah. So, and usually what the people from the association would want is for one of the therapists to recommend it. Because you might think, oh, this is going to work or that's going to work. And we may say, based on your strength and your muscles and so forth, this isn't a good idea. So they usually take our recommendation and then they so very gracefully get it for you. And it's something that you can, these equipment pieces you can use as long as you want, as long as they're working, as long as you like them. If you don't like them, you can ship them back. And that's the beauty of this whole thing, is that you don't want to invest a lot of funds or money in some of these pieces of equipment if they won't work for you, or if they'll only work for a while and then you're on to something else. So wonderful, wonderful thing.
And one more thing, Deb. So we're not the only medical equipment loan closet in the state. There's several of them. So if anyone would ever request something from us and we don't have it, we can give you information on other places that might.
Right.
Mary, just to clarify, it is true that the lift chairs are one thing that we're not doing anymore, correct?
Right, we used to loan those out, but they're the delivery men that we have through New Motion can't get those a lot of times up the stairs by themselves. And it was just becoming too dangerous for them to do that. And they don't have enough staff to offer us to send out a couple guys every day. So we've stopped that, but we do have the grant program still. So you can use that money to go towards a lift chair.
Right.
Excuse me, it's Maggie.
Yes.
Do any of you know about ALS, Always Lifting Spirits? It is a group of people that provide lift chairs for free.
Oh, goodness. No,
Yep.
we didn't know that.
I
I
didn't
got
either.
one last year and I was texting the woman and within a week I had the chair.
No, where is this out of, Maggie?
Nancy, my contact was in Denver.
In Denver?
So I will do a little research and send it in before the end of this presentation.
That would
and
be
two-
awesome.
Thanks,
Two
Mandy.
men came and delivered it and plugged it in, and it even had a USB contact for a cell phone to be plugged in within the chair.
Wow.
So
I've
this,
never heard of them.
yeah,
No.
where are they,
Denver.
throughout the country they deliver these
I'll
chairs?
give you more information later. I don't want to interrupt your presentation.
Oh, very helpful, Maggie. Thank you.
Are they
Sure.
brand new or are they the?
Brand new, brand new.
Ew. Oh my goodness. Well, and that brings us to, that's another piece of equipment that's invaluable for getting from sit to stand. And many people, and I know you guys could verify this, prefer sitting in a lift chair because they can change their position. And then the person helping you getting to stand, sometimes just getting to stand is the most difficult thing. Once you're up and stabilized, you can use your walker or whatnot. So a lift chair is invaluable.
Mhm. And just to put this plug out there, a lot of the newer power wheelchairs, they have something similar to this called an anterior tilt, which also can help. And inherently, power wheelchairs are higher than other chairs to make it easier to get in and out of. For those of you that are already in power chairs, I know transfers obviously were an issue, and that's one reason that you got your power chairs. So,
Alrighty. So I think we'll maybe just talk a little bit on some practical hints. Some of this will be a review, but I'll kind of skip over it quickly. But we know why it's difficult doing transfers. Now we'll talk about getting out of bed. What can help? Okay. A bed rail. If you have the ability to use your hands or arms, a bed rail can help with turning. It can help with getting up to the side of the bed. A draw sheet underneath can help your helper slide you to the edge to get up out of bed. Sometimes we bring up the idea of a modified bed or a Tempur-Pedic, one where the head can go up and the feet can go up. And what that does not only helps with the head elevated, not only helps with breathing and comfort, it also helps the person get you up to the edge of the bed. And sometimes we'll bring up hospital bed, and people, the reason we bring it up is that it's covered by insurance. Typically, a hospital bed is covered by insurance. And again, you can lift the head, you can lift the feet, that type of thing. You could get a lift device underneath it if you needed to use a Hoyer lift or a sit to stand to get up out of bed. So sometimes we'll bring up that idea. And you guys can chime in later, but I'm sure maybe the negatives of a hospital bed would be they only make them in like a twin size. You couldn't sleep with your significant other. The mattress might not be as comfortable as a regular bed, but just things to consider for ease. And it also has a built-in grab bar or railing. Not only helps you get up, but helps you from falling out. We talked about getting up from a chair, and we talked about the gait belt, the pivot disc. And we'll go on. Oh, she's got the lift device up already. Okay. So
as transfers get more challenging, you know, we'll start to talk about the lift device. Hoyer is one of the patient type lifts that name gets kind of thrown out, a Hoyer lift. Basically, a Hoyer lift is more of the one where your feet aren't on the ground. It's more just we call it a patient lift. So this is one version of a patient lift versus this is another version of a patient lift where your feet are on the ground. A lot of people like the concept of having their feet on the ground and doing transfers, and I wholeheartedly appreciate why, because you want to put weight on your legs. You want to use those muscles as long as possible. And this type of device is an option. The challenge with this type of device versus a Hoyer or a different patient lift is that this type of lift can't pick you up off the floor if you fall onto the floor. So it's a little less versatile than a Hoyer lift. So we like to have the conversations because this is one of those things that insurance only wants to pay for one type of lift, whether it's the sit to stand or the Hoyer. And if we want to talk about a lift that's going to meet your needs for the duration of the disease, the Hoyer lift is kind of the one that's going to be able to pick you up off the floor. It's going to be able to pick you up out of bed and get you onto the toilet And this one is a little more versatile than just the sit to stand. So it's
And-
great that we have the loan closet, because sometimes people really want to, they want the sit to stand, but we know that, all right, the Hoyer lift might be, 6 months down the road that we need to use the Hoyer lift versus a sit to stand. So
Chris,
were you going
I
to
was just
chime in?
gonna say, and with a sit to stand, you have to have somewhat stronger arms, correct?
Yeah, stronger arms and a stronger trunk are helpful. And at a certain point, it's not a safe option. If you're sliding forward or you're pitching forward because your trunk and your arms aren't able to help out, it starts to be a safety issue that device just isn't meeting your needs anymore.
All right, so we talked about lift devices. Now.
Actually, one other plug for the lift
oh,
devices.
yeah.
Is a lot of times, even if they have one in the loan closet, we start to talk about slings and what's the best type of sling to get. There are a variety of slings. So the full body one seems like, oh yeah, that's going to be the perfect one. I want to be kind of cocooned in that sling when it's lifting me up. But it's a little less versatile than the one down here. I don't know if you can see that. Where's my arrow? Right here. This one, we call that a universal sling because those straps can crisscross at the legs, and then it kind of creates a little cradle, but then there's a hole in the middle, which can be more useful for toileting and bathing and being able to do other things. So that's a universal sling versus this is a whole body sling. And then there's a different type of sling that they use for a sit to stand device, which so sometimes we have to order you a sling to use with the device that's appropriate for the device that you have access to. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So backtracking a little bit, and this is Chris's area too, but difficulty with walking. We talked about the gait belt as something that your helper can assist you, like up a stair or two, or getting from sit to stand. But what other things can help you walk safely? I think you should talk about
Oh,
this.
okay, I'll talk about it. We start the discussion early on. If you're having weakness in your legs or you're having more falls, because our ultimate goal is to prevent falls. We start this conversation earlier. Is a device appropriate? And usually a walker with wheels, something that you can hold on to with both hands, if both your hands are strong enough to hold on, is probably a good option to continue walking and minimize your risk for falling. Other things that I talk about are AFOs, so an ankle foot orthosis. If you have foot drop, I might recommend some type of ankle support so your foot's not tripping you up as you're walking. So that's kind of my domain when we're talking about continue to have you walk. How are we going to make that a safe option? And a cane, a walker, an AFO. There's wonderful four-wheel walkers that are appropriate for some people, but they do move faster than the regular two-wheel walkers. So sometimes those fancy four-wheel walkers with seats and handbrakes, they're great as long as you can continue to control them. If they're moving too fast, then that's probably not the right option for you. As unfortunately, as walking gets to be more challenging, and maybe even with the walker you're falling, then we start to have the conversation about wheelchairs, whether a manual like a transport wheelchair where family can be pushing you, or starting to have that difficult conversation about, all right, it might be time to start talking about that power wheelchair. So our goal as therapists is keep you as strong as possible for as long as possible is kind of our little saying, and to keep you safe and keep you mobile and as independent as long as we can keep you as independent as possible with equipment.
And those factors we talked about that key into that are, as Chris said, not wanting you to fall, not being difficult with getting around, but also think about the ease of getting around. Those of you that are in power wheelchairs or scooters, think of the energy you save getting from point A to point B, or getting outside, or going places you want to go, or going down the sidewalk, or walking with the dog, or walking with the kids. It's a means of kind of saving your energy for the things you really want to do. And sometimes people choose to, like Chris said, as far as insurance goes, insurance only wants to pay for one big item. So the power chair is the big item. It's like the Cadillac, it's the car, it's the one that you want to use your insurance dollars for. Could you use a little lightweight transport wheelchair that you can throw in the car and take to the ball game or something? Yes, that you can get through the loan closet. Or a lightweight manual wheelchair, again, that you could throw in the car and use that way. So, and I hear Chris say this a lot too in clinic, is let's think about that power chair and those insurance dollars. And maybe you're not using it all the time, but you're using it for those times when you can save your energy and it makes sense. And you can still do your walking and moving around on your own as well. So just a little FYI about those types of things. So energy conservation is one of the areas we also look at, because we don't want you to get so worn out that you're at risk for taking that fall, breaking that bone, going to the emergency room, which we want to avoid at all costs. So it's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of doing things. And I even say about myself that it's not inherent in the way we do things. A lot of us are so multitaskers. And you say the people who have been so used to being so active and doing all these things, you're not thinking about how you're doing things. You just want to get things done. And now you got to kind of say, well, if I've got an appointment today, I'm going to have to maybe take a break or pace myself prior to doing that. I might have to sit to do things instead of standing at the counter. I'm going to have to make a plan for myself for the day. I'm going to have to really think about it, because in the end, you want to do the things you want to do. And maybe some of those things you really never like to do, you could delegate. If you never like doing laundry, have someone else do the laundry. But again, it's what's a priority to you, because we have so many people that, oh, I love to get on my hands and knees and scrub the floor. Well, that was never me, but for some people that's a priority. So just kind of keep those things in mind. It's just a different way of thinking.
Or if you like folding the clothes, have somebody carry them up from the basement. If you're not blessed to have a first floor laundry, have them do the carrying the laundry up and down, and you still can do the folding.
Right, right. I think I'm going to quickly talk about some other subjects, and then we'll talk about home modifications and kind of equipment in the home. Just some other topics that may come up, and something that we personally, throughout the many years we've been doing this, has been a tough area, is the neck collars. So muscles in the neck and the throat, as you know, are muscles like anywhere else in the body, and they can get weak. And sometimes it's difficult to keep your head up. We have a few different types of neck collars. There we are. None of them are fantastic. Some of them will do the job we want them to do for a period of time, but there are drawbacks. So you see the first one on the top left, that soft blue collar. Actually, that's a kind of nice material collar. We'd recommend those types of things just if you need a little gentle support. And particularly, I recommend these if people are in the car and you are going on a road trip and you're going over bumps and, you know, our Wisconsin highways, and you need some support because your head will be bobbing around. That's great for that. Or, you know, as people use sometimes on the airlines, the collars, the soft collars, so they fall asleep, their head's not falling forward. Those may work. The other two on the bottom, the one on the bottom left, the gray one, is called a headmaster. And the blue one on the right is kind of a variation of that. And what that does again is it provides gentle support for your chin. I always like to call it an ottoman for your chin. Now, the drawback of that is if you can't wear it when you're eating, and sometimes it rubs on the collarbone. So we've actually, some of our patients have come up with some options for that. I should take a picture, but we sometimes put plumbing insulation along the front of that gray one, and we keep it in place by using a seatbelt cover, and that pads the collarbone. Now, that is something too that maybe you would want to wear if you're walking so you can see where you're going so that your head's not down. Or you may want to wear when you're watching television so you can keep your head supported. But we've always, you know, we're still trying to perfect this. This is an area that's a tough one. Other things we recommend is, again, those recliners or your power wheelchairs that have the head support. Even just resting your head back onto that is helpful.
Sometimes using a posture sling in conjunction with the neck collar, because your head position isn't just your neck muscles being weak. It's a big part of it, but it's also the rest of your trunk. And if your rest of your trunk is rolling forward, your head is also going to drop down. So sometimes a posture sling can be helpful just to help. But when those muscles start to get weaker, no amount of bracing is going to relieve the weight of your head or the trunk. Those gravity always will get the best of you. So what Deb is saying with the recliner is being in a reclined position where your head is back, and now you don't have to worry about gravity pulling your head forward. So being in the recliner in a slightly reclined position, or in the power wheelchair with the headrest in a slightly reclined position, is probably the best relief people with head drop will find, is finding that spot where they don't have to use the muscles to hold their head up for a prolonged period of time.
And sometimes those collars just give you enough support. So let's face it, you know, we're not in a recliner looking up all day. We're using the computer, or you're using your phone. So you do have to look down. Sometimes just raising up the surface of what you're working on or what you're doing will help as well. Even eating, bringing the surface of the plate or your utensils up higher so you can rest your arm to support your head and support your shoulder on a table, and have gravity help you rather than having to lift and go against gravity. You know, kind of our rule of thumb here is lightweight is your friend, something that's lightweight. You don't want to use anything heavy, and something about using gravity to your favor as well. So again, different way of looking at things, but sometimes it's real simple. Other times we really got to put our heads together and come up with a solution, but we'll always try. And usually you are the best problem solvers out there because you have to deal with it. So we welcome any suggestions.
I just want to quick point out in case everyone hasn't seen it, Maggie put that website up,
Oh.
www.alwaysliftingspirits.com. I've never heard of these people, but it's a foundation that provides lift chairs. That's huge.
That
Thank
is
you so
very
much.
huge. Yes, thank you, Maggie.
Thank you, Maggie.
You're welcome. No problem.
So before we get into looking at the home modifications and things like that, we just want to put a plug in about exercise and maintaining joint and muscle integrity. So we've gone to various symposiums and things in the past, and you know, there's not a lot of research out there, but it's starting to come out a little bit more about exercise. And used to be way in the past, they'd say, oh, don't exercise, that makes you weaker, that, you know, we found that to not be true. Exercise is very important, not only for your joints and muscles, but it's important for your lungs, your respiration, your circulation, all those things. So what we try to look at is your overall condition, but number one, what we always recommend is range of motion, and in particular stretching. So going through the range of motion of the joint, holding it up there and stretching it for like 20 to 30 seconds maintains the joint integrity. Because what we don't want to happen is for that joint to freeze or become painful. And think about that. If you can't, if your arm or leg is painful, only going a short way, how do you get dressed? How do you get washed? Those types of things. So stretching and range of motion. We give out handouts to people. They can do it themselves. A lot of it's very easy. Doing it once or twice a day. Then we also have recommendations for helpers to help you with your range of motion if you can't do it yourself. So that's our number one. Number two is posture. Okay, we're looking at the posture slings right now, and I'm going to try to sit up taller as I'm looking at it. But posture is so very important as well. It makes us efficient in what we do. It also eases stress in our back and our neck. It's important for our breathing, and it makes everything more efficient. So those two things every day is something we should be more aware of.
Hey, Deb.
Yeah.
It's Mary. I just want to make a comment. I know that the stretching is so very important, but I want people to understand that exercising and trying to run like 10 miles a day and biking, and that's not what you're saying.
No, and we're just getting to that, Mary.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, with the different stages of the disease process, we kind of have to decide what are the best exercises for you. In the early stages where your breathing is okay and your strength is okay, we're going to recommend range of motion, strengthening, and even aerobic type activity, meaning like a stationary bike or going for a brisk walk where you get your heart and lungs going. At a certain point, unfortunately, as the stage of ALS progresses, we kind of have to modify the recommendations. So if your breathing isn't supporting you being able to talk, or you're having just shortness of breath when you're sitting still, aggressive exercise isn't the right venue. We have to look at breathing, and we also have to look at your nutrition. If you're not taking in enough calories, your body can't support you burning those calories by doing aggressive exercise too. So it's always kind of this fine balance of you being able to breathe, you being getting enough calories, and then what kind of exercise is the appropriate based on the stage of the disease process. So yeah, going for a 10-mile run, probably, unless you're in the very, very early stages of ALS, is not the appropriate venue for exercising. So.
Right, so aerobically, and then lifting weights. If it's something you've been used to and you want to do some light resistive things, we recommend that a couple times a week, not every day, like the stretching and the posture. And then we always say, if you're sore, then you need to back off of those weights, because that might be tearing those muscle fibers and you can't regenerate those muscle fibers. So, but going back to, if you don't use a muscle, and let's say that muscle is not affected by the motor neuron disease, it can get weak just from not using it as well. But we really need to ease back on the heavy resistive things and the heavy aerobic things, as Chris said. We have to kind of look at it in perspective. So that's what we kind of recommend, and we have a handout on that. And I know not all of you come to our clinic, so, but that we kind of follow the national guidelines on. So, and we do get questions about that, because people, as Chris said, in the early stages, you know, we have people who ran marathons, like you said, or were used to road biking or extreme sports. And then this is a big shocker. So we need to modify things and look at a lot of different factors. But
And like we always say, no one's journey is the same. You have
Nope.
to listen to your body.
right,
So if you're using up all your energy to do these things, then it's too much, correct?
right, exactly.
Okay.
All in balance. So that's another thing. So I think maybe we could talk a little bit about the home setup and things like that, how to maybe modify things at home to make life easier. Does that sound like that's something we could jump into?
Yep.
Yeah, I think, you know, when people are starting to think about home modifications, you know, this is kind of a balancing act. All right. You know, financially, we'd all like to remodel our houses and make it accessible for everybody. But, you know, sometimes the resources and the permanency of home modifications comes into factor. Some people don't want to do modifications where, okay, we're going to do a whole accessible bathroom. And then that might make your house value more after you do that. And that's a plus, versus putting a ramp, like a permanent ramp on the front of your house. Some people don't want to do that. They want to look at more the temporary options where, all right, we want to do the most economical and safe, and when we don't need this ramp, we want to take this ramp off. So some of those things kind of come into play. Some people have the financial resources that they can do a lot of things to their house, and that's great, but others do not. Like ramping stairs, we'll kind of talk about that. Ramping stairs isn't the easiest thing, especially if you have more than one or two steps to get into your house. When we're talking about power wheelchairs and getting the house accessible for power wheelchairs, we talk a lot about ramping and how is that going to occur. If there's more than two steps, if there's a flight of stairs to get into your house or to a second floor, that's probably not a realistic expectation for a ramp to be able to do that. And then you're talking kind of power lifts and how, or do we think about just a first floor setup instead of worrying about that second floor, where you're gonna be on the first floor and have all your needs met on that first floor, so you can get the power chair on the first floor and then everything's there. Or if you have your full bath on the second floor, that might be a really perfect reason why you want to make a full bath on your first floor for the main living floor. So there's a lot of thought that needs to go into that. So we start talking about that early on, because that's a tough thing to start talking about. And then to actually accomplish that takes a lot longer. You've got to look for contractors who hopefully have some familiarity with wheelchair accessible renovations. So it can become expensive, time consuming, a more permanent change to your house. So
There are also ramps you can rent, just
correct.
so people know.
And this is one thing I love is if you only have like one step or a threshold to get into the door, there are ramp thresholds versus an actual ramp to do this. These are great. They're just rubber mats that can, bridge the gap of a 1 to 2 inch door threshold where a power chair can get up and into the house. Knowing your doorway widths is another important thing. The wider 32 inches is ideal to get a power wheelchair or any type of wheelchair through doors and make it easier to make the house accessible. Versus if you had 6 or 7 steps to get into the house, that is not the easiest thing to ramp. And people start to think about platform lifts or like a little mini elevator for a wheelchair, or we've had a handful of people that actually build elevators into their homes for second floor lifts. Obviously, that is a big financial commitment to be able to do that.
One question. I know a lot of homes might be a small step in, like the first picture, but once you get in on landing, there's like one step up in the house coming out of foyer or whatever.
Yep.
So you got room to turn there, but you still got one step to overcome. Have you guys seen anything for situations like that?
Yeah, there are temporary or smaller ramps for one step, but I know when you're talking inside the house versus outside the house, I thought I had a picture, but I might not, of of just a portable ramp, which sometimes they have those in the loan closet.
Yeah, don't we, Mary?
For 2 to 3 steps, but for a 1 step, you're probably talking 3 to 4 foot ramp. But inside the house, it gets a little more awkward, I guess, if you will, if you're gonna, where is that ramp picture?
Right, it's like a landing right there, the square a lot of times. So you got almost a vertical shift right inside the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are just 2 examples of kind of portable ramps these are probably meant for about two steps, but you can get shorter ones than that too.
Mm-hmm.
And if the house has got an unusual setup or something that's not common, those home modifications such as Build and America, what the heck's it called? Anyways, I can't think of it. I'll think of it. Anyways, they could come in
too, but yeah.
But they could come in and create something unique to your situation if needed.
Yeah, some of those companies that are familiar with wheelchair accessible housing are great assets to come in. I mean, again, it's kind of a financial commitment, but there are some of them that have therapists on staff that can help out with recommendations for home modifications. Sometimes we'll send in therapists to do a home assessment to make recommendations for like doorways or stairs and get their input too. But like, as Mary said, Build is one of those companies that will come in and they'll tell you exactly what they can do for you and what the price is to do it.
Home Solutions USA. That was the other one I was trying to think.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, as Chris said, we'll initially start talking about a first floor setup, and you could have the type of home like I do that there's only a half bath downstairs. There's no bedroom. So you have to kind of get creative on how you do things, and try to do it the most financially sound way you can. So in those instances, sometimes we'll recommend the hospital bed or the portable commode if you don't have a bath. Some homes don't even have a bathroom on the first level. So there are ways to do things that way too.
I do want to briefly kind of talk about stair lifts because I get this question quite a bit about, well, should I get a stair lift to go to my second floor? And, you know, some people, this is what they want to do and they will do it, and that's okay. That's okay. If you have a straight shot up to your second floor, you're probably talking about a $3,000 lift or so to go to that second floor. The one challenge is at a certain point when transfers get to be more challenging or walking gets to be more challenging, what are you going to do when you get to the top, that second floor, and now you've got to either use a wheelchair anyways to get to the bathroom, or you need to walk there, and that's not getting safe. The other thing with chair lifts or stair lifts, that if your trunk, if you're starting to get kind of wobbly and your sitting balance isn't good, a chair lift probably isn't a safe option anymore. So we have plenty of people that decide that they want to get stair lifts, but ultimately, if you're in a 2-story home, the first floor is probably where you will end up when you can't safely sit on this chair lift. But some people financially want to do that, and that's what they do, at least in the middle stages of ALS.
But you need a strong core.
You need to have good sitting balance. If you're gonna sit in there and tip out, obviously that's not safe. So yep, good sitting balance or a strong belly and back muscles.
So other modifications to the home, like I said, is bringing in equipment. The bathroom is another one of those places that, again, the lone closet is huge, but don't necessarily think if you have a bathtub with a shower in a bathtub that you won't be able to get in, because there is equipment for that. There are sliding tub benches where you're on the outside of the tub and a helper helps you slide. There's one, just a manual one, where you sit on the edge and just swivel on in. You don't have to step in. And there's a sliding one. Boy, she looks happy. That she can slide over into the tub.
Hope she takes her robe off before she takes it out.
Right? So, but anyways, so just because you have a shower and a tub doesn't mean you can't get in there. Here is another example of a sliding, but it's a shower / commode / chair that you can transfer in the bedroom or another area of the house and roll right over to the tub. Because that's another question we get, or people said, well, I've seen it on TV, they cut out your tub and you can just walk right in and sit down on a seat. But considerations with that are sometimes that seat you're sitting on inside there is low or slippery, or it doesn't have armrests. And sometimes, I don't know, I've never had one, but the seal on that might not possibly be the best, but you still have to get up out of there. And in these chairs, you're pretty secure. You're already in it. You just roll over and slide in. So, and then they also have hoses that you can mount on the wall of the shower that come down. And that's very convenient for A, not getting water all over, and B, if you have difficulty reaching, or if maybe your shoulders are weak, that shower can extend your arm and you can maybe reach your head or your hair or your back more easy and help you to be able to do that more on your own. But a big factor there, like it says, have an on and off switch for that. Because if you turn the water on and that hose is on, you're going to be spraying water all over. So, and that's not only convenient for taking your shower by yourself, it's also what people don't consider, it's for a helper. If someone's helping you, it's easier for them to use the hose or to have you sit on a chair. Because sometimes, again, if you don't have the arm and hand strength, you might want to stand in the shower, but for someone helping you, being lower, that helps them be able to help you. Boy, am I using the word help a lot. That's assisting them to help you better in a sitting position, but you could still stand up, when you needed to for other things. So those are some modifications that can be done to a regular tub or shower. If you have a shower curtain, if you have shower doors, it's usually more of a challenge. You might have to take the doors off.
Yeah, and all of these things are easily done to any bathroom, figuring out a way that you can use equipment in those. Versus if you go the route of doing a remodel, obviously now you can make the bathroom wheelable where you can wheel right in a shower, but now you've made a permanent home modification to your house. And if that's what you want to do and have the ability to do that, that's wonderful.
But that's a consideration. Also considering maybe having things you can see in that picture, that sink is higher. So you could get a regular chair you could sit to brush your teeth or wash your face and those types of things, or you could be in a wheelchair. And that would enable you to do it on your own. And then the higher toilet, obviously. And again, you could have a consideration for raising that toilet up. Either some people even do it from the ground up. They put a block under the whole toilet, but they also make toilet risers that you can put on the bowl. Some of them have little armrests, some of them don't. And you just gotta take into consideration the shape of your toilet and the shape of the riser. You don't want it to be wobbly, because then that's another risk. The picture on the right is one of just the riser that goes on the toilet bowl. And then there are safety bars that bolt to the back of the toilet that just go down to the floor. And that enables you to get a little leverage getting from sit to stand from that toilet. So those are very common ones we see. And then here's a picture of a portable commode. And sometimes that portable commode is handy. You can just put it over your existing toilet, like you see on the left-hand side. And then you have the raised height and you also have the armrests.
Versus if the bathroom is not wheelchair accessible and you have to make the tough decision that, all right, I need to get to the bathroom, but I can't get in the bathroom, then you could put the commode wherever you need to put the commode to do your thing.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes people just use this as an option. Let's say who you're living with, your significant other or whoever, they're gone during the day, they're at work or whatever, and you are unable to do the walk all the way to the bathroom. Let's say you're in your lift chair, or then having that commode nearby, maybe using that lift chair and just doing a little pivot on the commode you can do on your own. So it's maybe just something to use some of the time just to be safe and to be able to, because that's one of the number one things you need to be able to do. So there's a thought there. Oh, on the subject of toilets, another valuable thing that people have told us are installing a bidet onto the toilet, so that again, enabling you to be able to be clean and using that bidet. And that can be operated either by a push button or by a foot lever or something of that nature. So another thing.
You can use the grant money from the chapter for that.
Yep. And that's what, every 6 months, Mary?
The rules have changed.
Well, they have.
Kathleen, would you like to explain the new policies? please?
Yeah, so it's really similar to other reimbursement programs. It's an annual amount, which covers a lot of different things. We can share that website or that form as well. So it's up to $1,000 annually. And then, you know, your purchases have to happen within that calendar year. So
Oh,
So it's different that way.
yeah,
If you'd use $1,000 in November and December, then you can turn on in January and get another $1,000.
oh, so it's
Exactly.
calendar year, just like,
Now it is, yep.
okay.
mhm.
Well, that's nice to know.
And that can be towards the transportation or the home modifications, equipment, things like that.
Right,
Yeah.
things that we can't readily get.
Right.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks, Kathleen.
I'd like to add something here.
Sure.
The VA bought me a lift chair with a bidet that goes over the toilet. And when I could stand, it was a lifesaver because it would lift up, just like a lift chair, and I could stand up and do my transfers. I can no longer stand anymore, but back then it was really a lifesaver.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And that's, this is Daryl, right?
Yep.
And that's another huge advantage of the VA system is being able to get maybe some equipment and those types of things more readily. So that's wonderful that people are aware of that if they're connected with the VA.
I guess I didn't realize that a lift, is it the size of a lift recliner and it's just over the toilet, or is it a smaller version?
It's much, much smaller. It looks,
Okay.
it's
just
even
has-
smaller than the one that's on the screen here,
Yeah,
and it'll lift you up to a standing
okay.
position.
Okay.
And then it's got a built-in bidet. And
how
with
did, how did you operate it, Daryl?
with buttons that were on the side of the chair.
Okay,
It's liftseat.com. And with my weakness in my hands, cleaning myself became a problem. So the bidet became invaluable.
Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah, that's a challenge when your arms are weak. You know, I joke that I'm jealous when people's legs are getting weak and their arms stay strong. I'm like, oh, your arms are strong. But really, when arms start to get weak and you can't do those activity of daily living, that is challenging. I mean, even pulling your pants up and down when your arms are weak it's hard, and when you can't clean yourself after using the toilet. So the bidet is one option for when that happens.
Mhm.
You got to be a MacGyver to
Right,
figure things out.
And even early on when bidets started to become a thing, it was a challenge because if arms were weak, which is probably why we were thinking about a bidet, you couldn't control it with your foot. But now that they're starting to get foot controls, which are cool, or you MacGyver the hand controls so you can use them with your feet and use your foot to kind of push the button versus
right.
your hands.
I was just looking at that website. That is a slick deal.
That
that they're all ma-
liftseat.com.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, the lift recliner is like a little catapult for you to get up off the toilet,
Yeah.
right? A little lift seat.
I think they have those too that, yeah, you can put on any surface. That
We have some chair lifts that you could put like on a kitchen chair just to help you get up. Mhm.
And just enough to give you a little boost. And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, Mary, but they're portable enough that if you could take them to a restaurant or something, because if you go to
Oh, yeah.
you're not
Just
sure of what the chair
something-
situation's gonna be.
Yeah, you could
Right?
definitely, I mean, I would say they're probably not more than 10, 15 pounds, and you could bring them in a bag and just put it on your seat there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yep. And again, Mary, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but people who travel as well, like we have a lot of people who are snowbirds, go to Arizona or Florida for the winter. They can communicate and get hooked up with loan closets throughout the nation. Is that correct?
Yes, and if anybody is traveling and wants that kind of information, just reach out to me or your care services coordinator and we'll get you that contact information. And most of the chapters have equipment loan closets as well.
Right, right.
But I do want to point out one thing. If you're going to Florida, they won't borrow something for just like your 1 week visit because there's so many people in and out. So I think you have to have like a residence or an address down there for at least a month or 2 months or something like that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any questions? I know we're getting close to the end here, so we want to make sure that people have a chance to ask some questions if they want.
Hey, Steve, you didn't get a chance to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I joined in a little bit late. So yeah, I'm Steve Berg. I was diagnosed with ALS in January of this year. Still in the early stages, mostly affecting my left hand and my voice or my speech. But still enjoying life, remain active. But yeah, planning, looking forward to where this disease takes me.
You have a great attitude, Steve. Thanks for coming on.
Did you go
Yeah.
hunting?
What was that?
Did you go hunting in the past week since we saw you?
Yeah, actually, I just got back from North Dakota 11 o'clock last night.
Oh, that's right. What did you bag? What did you get?
Me and my two friends I was with, we got 62 ducks and a goose in 4 days.
Oh my gosh.
Busy.
Yeah. So we had great time.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm glad.
I got a tired dog from all retrieving.
I
Yeah.
bet. So no turkey this Thanksgiving, ducks and geese.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that would be something, since he mentioned about dogs retrieving. If you could train a dog like to get things for people, you know,
So
and bring them
this-
the newspaper, bring them a can of beer or something or whatever.
yeah, my lab just through a hunting train. Hey, tell her fetch, she'll pick it up no matter what it is.
Oh,
So it could be very easy and helpful that way.
No kidding. That's great. So Chris and Deb, are you done? Do you wanna
yeah.
I
close
want-
out?
I have one question.
Oh,
Since
sorry.
I missed them at the beginning, can you guys email out like a PDF version of this
I will.
PowerPoint?
I'll email to everybody on this talk, the PowerPoint, the recording, if I can do that. And then these two sites that we were told about today, Maggie's Always Lifting Spirit with the recliners, and then liftseat.com from Daryl. So I'll get all that out to everybody probably Friday or Monday. So you'll get it, Steve.
Excellent.
Yeah, and this PowerPoint, I mean, you can see we just kind of jump around, and it's more just for the pictures of
Right.
we had and talked about.
Right.
So we didn't really go exactly on our PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah,
They're the rebels.
Mary,
Eh,
I'd suggest saving it as a PowerPoint or a PDF. The email and people can open it easier.
And look at it at their own leisure. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
definitely. Are there other questions? Are there other topics you guys want to talk about? Or anybody have any specific questions they have for the group? Maggie, are you still there?
Yep, sure am.
So Angie had told me you offered some of your clothing that had been modified. Is that correct?
Yeah. Michael's upstairs, but I sure wish he was here because I would love to show the women on this call how we modified dresses. But yes, we have a few that don't fit me that I could easily volunteer to give away. But more importantly, the idea of being able to modify your own clothes so you can use a lift and go to the bathroom independently would be my best advice.
And can a seamstress do this, or is there a special place
Yep.
to purchase this clothing?
Oh, a seamstress. I used my own clothes and had them modified.
Okay.
Essentially cut a seam down the back and opened up the dress. And it's been super helpful. So dresses have been much easier than pants because I can't move my butt in or out of the wheelchair even. So I can't really get pants on very easily.
Well, it's still a good suggestion, you know, if anybody else is questioning that. I just like people to contribute and share information.
Was this a local seamstress, Maggie, or someone you just found out about, or?
I am very fortunate. I have 2 friends that sew.
Okay.
And you know, one of those things like you'll learn when you ask people for help, if you think of what you really need, people love to help.
Of
I'm
course.
so impressed with people's generosity.
Well, we think the same about you. You help us every time.
So Michael just appeared. He's going to get a couple of these just to give you an idea. Sorry to the gentleman on the call. We'll get a couple of dresses that have been
You
modified.
never know, man.
For sure.
Never know.
Some men might like wearing the dresses.
Right.
Yeah.
Paul, what about you?
My kilt.
I was gonna say real men wear kilts, so.
Right, right.
Mary, I have a suggestion about clothing too.
Okay.
My friends put Velcro underneath all my buttons, so we don't have to button anything up. We just
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
put the
Very
Velcro-
good
They
idea.
sewed the buttons on. They sewed the buttons back on, but we have little Velcro dots to just open and close them.
Oh, so it looks like buttons, but it's really
Okay.
Velcro.
Right.
Yeah.
Underneath.
Very helpful.
Clever.
Yeah.
There used to be a store.
Maggie said people are very willing to help you do that.
Right, right. And look
Good.
at you wearing your neck collar.
I am.
Oh,
Yeah, see, so you can talk to us and see what's going on, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
yeah. Is it uncomfortable, Maris?
I do not find it uncomfortable. And they said you can't eat with it, but I can eat potato chips and
Just
stuff.
put a
with
little
it.
piece of it.
Good for you.
That's all that matters, potato
Yeah.
chips.
Maris is also in a semi-reclined position. You can see that she's using the chair to help out too, so that's.
Right.
Sure.
Right, yeah. This is, yeah.
And that one, the ground floor, and that's all.
You're like our Vanna
okay,
White,
so-
Maris. Oh,
Excuse me, sorry I interrupted, but my Michael came back and has a couple of dresses that we're gonna try and show you. Obviously, I can't model them, but even if you just get the idea of how the back has been modified, then reach out to me and I'm happy to send you pictures of a close-up.
Maggie, we can't see you.
Yeah, your video off.
It's coming, hold on. Oh, that's weird. I don't know what happened.
Your video go off?
No, it says it's on. I don't know, darn it. Oh, hold on. Okay, here
There
we
you
go.
are.
Okay, so here's my Michael as my Vanna White here.
Hey,
Hi, Michael.
hey,
There's the front, but here's the back.
Oh, sure enough.
Mm-hmm.
So they just slid it and kind of finished the seams.
Yep, that's all it is.
Oh, wow.
And you're going commando?
Yep, all the time.
Woo, woo.
That's
Mhm.
wonderful.
And then we have another one that's got a little more. Yeah, go ahead. Sundress.
Cute.
Oh, yeah.
Again, a very simple opening.
Yeah.
Sure. Easy to get on and off too, much less using the bathroom and all of that.
Exactly. Last one, because this has more of a finished edging on it, which is a little classier, and because it's knit, my friend was afraid it would fray.
Oh, yeah. That is classy. Is that a?
It's such a
sweater?
simple concept.
Yeah.
It's just binding, black
Okay.
binding.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
wondering what could be done for clothing for men?
For the guys,
Yeah,
they make something similar. It's open in the back, but it's got a flap. And if you do a Google search on adaptive clothing,
Yep, I was just doing that.
They have it, and I got some. I haven't tried them yet, but I got them. So
Almost
we'll
like
see.
long johns that have the back
Well,
that you can unbutton.
I got sweatpants,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's got a flapping back so that when I'm in the sling, and it velcros that you could just unvelcro it. Your partner can unvelcro it, and
Clever.
when you sit on the toilet, you're
Yeah.
clean.
Oh, that's great.
So
Thanks,
adaptive
Daryl.
clothing.
I'll throw
Was it
that,
expensive, Daryl?
Pardon?
What, real expensive or not?
Yes.
It is, huh?
Yeah, a pair of sweatpants was about $40.
Yeah, that's the problem with.
but then again, you could hire a seamstress to do it on a regular pair, but
Right,
you
get
probably
one
get.
and then just try to adapt others, yeah?
Well, yeah.
But- Yeah, but you're probably paying, let's just say $20 for a pair of sweatpants and paying the seamstress $20.
$20.
Probably.
Right.
Use the
But
grant
then
program.
don't forget to use the clothes you have. You don't need
Yep.
to buy new ones.
That's true, yeah.
Mhm.
Right. That's a good point. What other tips have you guys got for each other?
Well, we've just been buying some clothing for, my husband loves to wear t-shirts. But he doesn't want them to sag and bag all over him. So I'm purchasing some so that I can learn how to make the modifications where they snap over, because Velcro can kind of get scratchy.
Yeah.
Sure.
So these have snap over areas, and they are a little bit expensive. You use up, Tom gets grant money for clothing, a yearly allowance, but when you're buying those types of things, it goes pretty fast.
Sure.
And so I'm going to try to learn how to modify just regular clothing to fit that
Right.
budget.
Awesome.
Mhm.
What else have we got? Anybody else have questions? Well, like I said, next month, the plan is to, the support group's going to be Independence First, Cindy Pickler. And I'm not sure yet if it's going to be there, which is on First and National-ish down in that area. We usually meet there and they'll show us all the different